Welcome to the First Podcast, a podcast of First Baptist Church Lake Butler, where the pastors gather to encourage and equip our church to engage the world with the gospel of Jesus Christ. Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Pastor Jonathan, and I'm with Pastor Stephen today. We are without Pastor Jason.
He's not here.
We're going rogue.
Where is Pastor Jason?
Pastor Jason is at Shelbyville Mills Baptist Church with our good friend and mentor, John O. Sims, brother John O. Sims. They're
doing a revival, right?
A revival, fall outreach kind of thing, and so grateful he's able to be there, share the word. He's even sharing his testimony, which is really powerful when he did that the last revival he preached.
Shelbyville Mills, that is a mouthful.
It is hard to say.
And if they're country, could you imagine? Where you go to Shelbyville Mills?
I wonder if they acronym it like...
Oh, they don't, they're...
SMBC? SMBC?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. So today we're going to talk about what it's like to work with a boss who is... I'm just kidding. No, what I was thinking is that both Pastor Stephen and I have served. I'm currently serving as the youth pastor here at First Baptist, and it is such a joyful task to get to lead our youth ministry. I just thought we could kind of share, as those who have cared so much and continue to invest in our youth, just what it means to be a part of youth ministry here at First Baptist, what our vision really is for it, why we do it, and how it fulfills what we really seek to be faithful in the Great Commission, in seeking to make disciples of all nations. So, yeah, Stephen, if you guys haven't known this, Stephen has been the longest serving youth pastor at First Baptist.
It's true.
And my goal in life is to surpass him, but has not happened yet. Yeah.
Yeah, I was the youth pastor for between 5 years, so 4.5 years.
We need to make sure that's written down, because I need to have like a paper chain that I like rip off every day. It gets closer.
There you go. Yep.
And then this summer was 4 years for me, so it will be within a year.
I know.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's great. But do you count part time?
Nope.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. Of course.
So when you were hired 38 years ago, no,
almost 16.
Yeah. You weren't really expecting to be the youth pastor, right?
No.
And so how did you get involved with youth ministry here?
Well, some of it, I think a large part of it actually was organically. When I first came, we were just in a season, a time and place where we could have a youth choir. That was something that I really wanted to do. Of course, I would still love to do youth choir, but we had, what had happened was I had kids graduating out of children's choir, and I just didn't want to let them go, to be honest. And I knew they were like really talented and able. Yeah. And so that kind of led into, let's do something with youth. And what's really cool is we started, I don't think we've ever talked about this.
Yeah.
We started with 4 6th graders going into 7th grade with a quartet. Now, it wasn't like a Southern gospel quartet. We did some contemporary stuff, but and that grew into 6 or 7, and then we went to like Sun Power, which was a youth choir conference that we did, and that went for years. And we took upwards to 30 kids to Sun Power. Yeah, all about youth choir. And so when we didn't have a youth pastor, Chad had left, and there just wasn't someone, I wanted to not let it go. So, just kind of stepped in.
So you saw the need, you step in, and this was before the bridge, right? Or was it
correct?
Around the same time?
It was before the bridge, and then the kind of the whole undertaking of the bridge happened during that season. Wow. So I got to really be a part of that from the ground up, quite literally.
I know, that's amazing. And for those of you who don't know, we just have this amazing building that was adjacent to our church facility that Stephen was instrumental in seeing. It was really gifted in a large way. We paid some money, or was it just a total gift? I forget the exact story, but
Yeah, there was a large donation that covered pretty much covered the remodeling of that building, because it was an unusual building, the way it was set up, and it was like this separate garage that used to be the fire station. And then anyway, so to make it one whole building took a lot of work, and then had to be redesigned and all that stuff.
And it is incredible. I just have to say, like, being able to use that space, and it's able to be used, by all our members, but to have like a dedicated space for youth activities and special events, and even all the AV and lighting stuff you helped set up. It's just been such a great practical space for us. Even now, CC is using it today. And so it's great to see the Lord use the resources that we have, for His glory. And it's awesome.
Well, I think youth ministry is one of several things on the list of church ministries that has drastically changed in its implementation over the last 25, 35 years. Youth ministry, when I was growing up, it was looked at very differently than I think it is today by a lot of churches. And we'll kind of get into that, defining the terms of what youth ministry is all about. But let's go ahead and say what I think it used to be. And then, so youth ministry really, I mean, if you want to go back, way back, like, I'm sure we have church members or people who were members here, taking a lot of influence from like the Southern Baptist machines of First Baptist Jacks. Like, youth ministry was load up in the church bus and go sing.
Right.
Ski trips and that kind of thing, which those are wonderful things. When I was growing up when I was a teenager back in the 90s, youth ministry, and this is kind of where maybe some churches still are, but youth ministry was really about hire the young, you could say young, attractive, and like magnanimous personality youth pastor, and by their personality and by their funness and their coolness, they're gonna be more on the kids' level and attract more teenagers. Now, obviously, if you go to First Baptist, we are far from that model. We just threw that away.
Really reformed from that.
Wait, what just happened in my throat? I'm sorry.
The truthfulness. Oh.
So, no, of course we're kidding. But that really kind of was the model where it was kind of like youth pastor centered, and everything flowed from the giftedness of that youth pastor, his ability to speak, his ability to be fun and cool and quote unquote relate to teenagers. And you made a comment before we started recording. What was that phrase that kind of encapsulates what youth ministry used to be?
Yeah. I think in so much of church life, what we see is there's wisdom in believing that what you win them with is what you win them to. And so even in my experience, I actually went to a few different youth groups, which is probably not the best idea, but I definitely got kind of a large swath of different types of ministry, where some of them were just like totally just games, kind of very outlandish stuff, very little Bible. And you just, you walk away from that as a teenager being like, yeah, that was awesome. I can't wait to come back, and that type of stuff. And then I was also a part of this youth group that was called Friday Night Lights, just done by this really faithful couple who were in my town, but they were part of a Presbyterian church. And they were like, come on, like we're going through videos of R.C. Sproul. And I was like, that sounds so boring, But I came, and they always had like a very fun game that wasn't like lick peanut butter out of somebody's armpit kind of game. I know. Or one time in one of the youth groups, we all took a bite. No. We all had this bagel on a string. And we put it through everybody's shirt. And then the person who like lost, I don't know what they lost, had to like eat it.
Yeah. That was the thing. That was a whole thing in youth ministry, like gross games.
How much exactly?
Like, I've seen like put the entire Happy Meal in the blender and drink it.
Boy.
Can I tell you a quick story?
Please.
Story time with Stephen. We should have music, like a special song.
Dun, 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 dun.
One time I was asked to come sing at this youth conference, our youth rally. That's what it was. In the 90s, it was youth rallies. And so I'm sitting on the front row because I'm singing. And Jonathan, I'm telling you, I don't know if I ever told you this. They did this game that they called Mullet Munch. And they didn't tell the kids what the game was. And so they asked until they got the volunteers on the stage. So they asked for these volunteers. I'm sitting there on the front row and there's a kiddie pool on the stage covered up with a tarp. We're already in bad territory if there's a kiddie pool on the church stage. They get these volunteers up there and they unearth that kiddie pool, and it is filled with dead raw mullet fish.
Wow. Oh my.
And the game was who could eat one the fastest. Raw mullet fish. And I'm sitting there looking at these teenage girls up there, and I was on the front row. Okay, this is getting too long. They started eating the fish, and the smell that came, I had to change my thinking. Like I had to disconnect from what was happening in front of me, or I was about to be sick.
Right.
Could you imagine going from that to, all right, y'all, these girls are going to go puke, and welcome special singer Stephen Wells.
Right.
Oh, how nice. Thank you for that introduction. Anyway.
And all I can say too, from my experience, is that youth group that just kind of had the fun games, all that.
Right.
That was really what was attracting students. I don't really remember anything I learned. I don't have lasting relationships from that youth group. And the one though, where we sat in the basement of, this couple's house, where we went through the Bible, we were able to just ask questions of what we were thinking, and we learned how to read the Bible and all these things. That youth group really changed the direction of my life in a lot of ways. And I'm still very good friends with the guy who served as kind of the youth pastor. He wasn't a pastor, but just a really faithful brother, Charlie Fenton. If you're ever listening, love you, man. He actually ran the marathon with me. He was like, we still do like physical challenges sometimes. It's so funny. But in all of that, what I was shown is that reality. What you win them with is what you win them to. And
so that basically what that means is, if you're drawing them and you're attracting a crowd by using the big gross games or the personality centric youth pastor model, then you have to sustain that. You have to keep providing that to keep the people.
Right.
And that is not realistic.
Yeah, it's not only realistic. I think it's diverting people's attention away from the glory of Christ to like come here for the games or come here for some personality. That's like a far cry from, I think, 2 Corinthians 4, Paul saying that the treasure we have is in jars of clay. Right. Meaning like us as ambassadors for Christ shouldn't be the thing that people are really focused on. It should be what's inside, like the message that we have of what Jesus is doing and how great he is. So, yeah. And
it's not to say that the youth pastor's relatability doesn't matter, that he's able to, have a conversation with students is kind of important, and has that kind of social ability. Of course it matters, but it's not what's driving. And I want to point this out. Not only is it not what's driving us, and we'll get into that theologically, but I think there's a lot to be said, and we may not have the time or capacity to really detail this out, but culture has changed in so many ways that I don't think, by and large, that families with teenagers, like the gross games and the stunt kind of pulling youth ministry does not draw a crowd like it used to.
Yeah.
Culture, with its busyness, the extracurricular activities that most teenagers are involved in, what used to draw as far as, hey, we're doing, Mullet Munch Sunday night would draw a crowd in 96.
Yep.
Today, what kids are going to text each other, are you going to be there? What they're going to find out who else is going before they commit, which is right or wrong. That's reality.
Yeah.
And so practically and theologically, we've really come away from that model of youth ministry. So where would you say, Jonathan, we are now as far as your experience of coming on board on staff, and the expectations that were set before you?
Yeah.
How would you describe where we are, how that's changed?
Yeah, I think I could boil it down to like 3 major convictions that you could add to or expand on if you want. But the first is that it's all about Jesus. It has to be from the Word. That's what we need to trust. We need to trust Him by His Spirit and His Word. We're not really relying on gimmicks or events to do the work that only Jesus can do. Those things have places, as we've said, technology has a place, but our primary goal really has to be about honoring Him, showing students what it looks like to live for Him. That's like the first conviction. The second one, I think, is that youth groups should be aiming them towards the local church.
Amen.
So youth group is not its own little church where students, it's very easy to do this. I've noticed this over the years. It's very easy to just have it be like so much kind of different that students are okay with that. But then when it comes to gathering on Sundays, being a part of the normal means of grace that the New Testament describes, they checked out.
Right. We often use the language of silos, like youth ministry is not a silo unto itself. That's huge.
And then the third conviction that we have shared quite a bit is that all of the different silos of ministry within student ministry, kids ministry, even, down to nursery, preschool, all that, we have this conviction that parents are the primary disciplers of children. Pastors are here. We're to, equip the saints for the work of ministry. We want to be alongside parents, but fundamentally we want to do what we can, all that we can to equip parents to know what it means to have a household that honors God, to live a life for Him. And so, yes, we pour into students and we do all that we can, but we also want to remember that a huge part of our job is to give stuff to parents, encourage parents, counsel parents, help them, really set them up for caring for students. I've even seen this sometimes practically where students sometimes can try to bypass their parents and just kind of get to me, or like a pastor. And I want to do all I can to not do that, to really bring everybody into the conversation. And so I'm also trying to be careful with even application as I'm teaching to say guys, you need to obey your parents.
Right. Right.
I am not here to supplant them. If they supplant, is that a word?
Supplant.
Yeah. Sounds like a guy from the medieval times. All right.
Or usurp.
Right. Usurp. That's not my job. My job is to show them what it means to follow Jesus. And for kids, for those underneath their parents' roof, Ephesians 6 applies.
That's where it's going to manifest.
Exactly. So those are 3 convictions that I have seen, and I'm glad I think we can be in agreement about.
So practically, how do those 3 convictions, what do they look like in your regular ministry with the youth?
Yeah. Well, I came up with this little vision statement that I kind of stole from another church. So I'm sorry. I got the permission. So I guess it's not stealing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They're like, go ahead. The youth ministry of First Baptist Church Lake Butler is an engaging and welcoming community for its youth and their friends that encourages all 7th to 12th graders to trust the gospel, live out the gospel, speak the gospel, and share the gospel. So in just that beginning stage, I want it to be an engaging and welcoming community because that's what God tells us to do. He tells us in Romans 12 to welcome others as God in Christ has welcomed you. Like the whole idea of being a gospel-saturated people should be a certain flavor of our youth group, our kids ministry, any ministry that we have. So that's the goal. And then, trusting the gospel and living out and speaking and sharing. Those are all just different ways that we're trying to equip students to believe who Jesus is and to live out what it means to follow Him. And so practically we do that through weekly meetings on Wednesday nights. We do that through other events that that the students are invited to, like we have D Now, we have youth camp, we have winter camp. And then through interpersonal meetings, like I get to meet up with students a lot, get to hang out with them. I've been taking them golfing, doing stuff like that. And it's been, and that is just a big way that we also try to reach, that vision statement.
Yeah. So I'm in a unique position because I am a co-laborer with you as one of the pastors here at First Baptist, but I'm also a parent of two in the youth group. So I've got two teenage sons in the youth group. What would you say would be some wins of conducting youth ministry under these principles and the vision statement you have?
Yeah.
And is there anything that you would say, here's something I'd like to work toward, or here's something that's a muscle that needs attention or exercising in our youth ministry?
No, I appreciate that. I think some of the big wins have been students recently professing faith and wanting to be baptized / join First Baptist. And so they're just, we have to discern and try to encourage and disciple them in that decision and what God would have them to do. But it's still just such an encouraging thing to see them want to make that step. I mean, it's not really, I don't think they have a lot of peer pressure to do that. I think that often it's a very self-motivated, really God motivated, by His Spirit, that they would want to come forward and do that.
Amen.
And so that's a big win that I'm not of course, taking credit for, but I do tell them every week that I want them to follow Jesus. Amen. I want them to do it here in community. I want them to be a part of this church. I try to hit that all the time. A second win recently is what we do for our teaching series is we go through books of the Bible or series. I've done a series on work and what that means. I've done a series on how to share your faith. But recently we went through the entire Gospel of Mark. That was great. It took a few months. And now what I tried to do in a rotation is do this thing called Tough Questions, where they will submit questions and I just try to show how the Bible tackles them and at least provides a good response for what, God's word really does say in its sufficiency to all the problems that we face.
Yeah.
And the win, I think, it has been the overwhelming amount of questions that they have that are very good. They ask about
I was going to say, give us an example.
Why evil exists, or even one asked about where the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is, or another one asked how are we different from Mormons? Just kind of go, and they even asked me could you give a reason why you think following Jesus is the best religion, or the thing that is true? Those types of things, I think, just show me that they are at least thinking about it. Sure. And it's giving me an opportunity to try to show them look, here's how to use the Bible to face our problems. And look, we all forget most of the stuff in teachings that we sit underneath, but I think the experience and seeing my emotional interest in wanting to point them to Jesus and how important that is. I think that's something that they can take away.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I really want them to be able to take away from our youth group, from their time, these 4 years, here they are, I want them to be able to say, I don't remember everything I learned, but I remember that guy who really believed that the Bible was all that we need and that Jesus really is better than everything else.
Yeah. And just them being able to see the practical application of what the theology we proclaim, the doctrines we hold to, for them to be able to ask those questions and be led through a discussion on what it looks like in real life. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I think, to be transparent with you, I look back on my time and there are some things I wish I could go back and do very differently. And we don't have to get into all that, but, I do think, and this is just a fact of life, I believe, the theory of what you're teaching when it comes to teenagers, the practical application is most made when there's a personal connection.
Right.
the old adage, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right.
Teenagers are expert. They have an incredible radar for sincerity, and they know if someone's sincere or not. Mm-hmm. And nowadays they would call it a vibe.
Right.
If the guy don't have the right vibe, they're not going to listen. Mm-hmm. And so the ability and the work it takes to personally connect and to be approachable and all of those things so that you have an audience with teenagers is a huge deal. It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
That's why it matters as a parent to me that you're connecting on a social level and a mentor type level with my sons, because I know that's going to build their respect and honor and audience to you on Wednesday nights.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just as a parent, man, I used to think that like, I've always believed that parents and church, like we lock arms, we forge together for the discipleship of our children. Mm-hmm. Now I just quite literally feel it. I quite literally see, and I'm thankful for, man, as a parent, I've just blown it this week as far like I was too lazy or too tired last night to do family discipleship. What a blessing that I have a church who's prepared and who's ready to receive my kids and teach them. And boy, it helps me to have further conversations about what was talked about or whatever. And so I am living that kind of dance between locking arms with church and home. Yep. And can't tell you how thankful I am that I've got that arm linked in my arm to hold me up as a parent. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it is a privilege. And that's part of what I would think are some areas we can grow in is I just do want to continue to try to be involved with parents, trying to keep the line of communication open, doing all I can to show them that I care about their jobs so much. But also I think spurring them on to be types of parents that honor Christ, that aren't just kind of the like drop off method of like, they're here, here they go, see you later kind of thing.
And we have a unique dynamic. I think we didn't talk about this before we recorded, but just because of my passions and my history with children and families, like we kind of overlap in a lot of ways when it comes to family ministry and just seeing to it that, and I'm so thankful for that. And Pastor Jason, I think, shares the same thing. That's why we're having, we all kind of have this shared unity and vision for next generation faithfulness and families being healthy spiritually and moms and dads being leaders in the home spiritually. It was kind of a no-brainer as we prepare for a fall family conference that's coming up with Rob Reno,
October.
Thank you. Yeah. October. Thank you. There you go. October 15th and 16th. I'm like September 2nd. Yeah. So that's coming up, and man, I'm so thankful that we can work in tandem like that. So thank you, Jonathan, for sharing your vision with us, sharing where you're at and what you're striving to do in the youth ministry. I'm thankful that I can sit across from you as, like I said, a co-laborer, but also a beneficiary of this ministry. And just so grateful for how the kindness of the Lord and the grace of the Lord has given a little church like First Baptist someone who can pour into our families, our teenagers, with sound theology, practical application, an okay personality, sense of humor.
Power, let's be honest.
Sense of humor. Okay, we'll still pray. No, but love you, man. Thank you so much.
I love you too, and it is such an honor. And I'm just very grateful that the culture we have here is that youth ministry isn't this like you go do your kind of youth thing.
You're on an island.
Yes, yeah. That is, I just think so healthy to say we're all pastors here. And in that sense, we're all equal, but we also just know that youth in this stage is such a crucial kind of like venture in their life where they are about to embark, and what really sets the trajectory for the rest of their lives.
Right.
So I'm just so grateful. I don't see youth ministry as like a stepping stone or a ladder, even though it is my first ministry position. I'm just so thankful to have this. And I don't see it as like, this is where you kind of like leave from it and then leave it to the other less experienced people.
Right.
I think this is where we need like a lot of the most experience in a sense.
Right.
So very thankful for you. Thank you.
Anything you'd want to close off the podcast, maybe an exhortation to the church, the body, what you're looking forward to in youth ministry, maybe a need you have or?
Yeah, thank you. I think that just as I'm encouraging the students to be the church, I'm encouraging them to follow Jesus, to take that step, that kind of thing. For all of you who are members and are believers, I would just encourage you to try to get to know our students and put your arm around them. Ask them if they want to be mentored and take them into your home, even if it's a little bit, awkward at first. I know students aren't always the easiest to get along with.
They appear prickly.
They do. But sharing your life with them, I think, will impact them in more ways than you can count. So that would be an encouragement that I would have. And I always am very grateful for help from parents. So if you're a parent and you'd like to help out like on Wednesdays or help with events, please just let me know.
Great.
Very thankful for that. Well, thanks for talking about this. Grateful for our youth ministry.
Amen.
And thanks for listening to this episode of the First Podcast. Until next time, for your joy and God's glory.
Let's go have some mullet for lunch.
Let's do it.